Alright, so another Beyblade unboxing. This time we finally have BulletGriffon, our first UX Expand Blade Bay. Very excited for this one. This is my most anticipated bay that we've had coming out for a while now. So here it is. There's all the stuff on the back. Looks very cool. I'm just excited for this thing, so I want to open it up. Alright, I have everything opened up now. So first up we have the instructions. And we also have the launcher here in black with these kind of teal dots and text, and also this dark red, almost maroon, for the ripcord and prongs. So another starter here, pretty nice. And now getting into the bay itself, and there is a lot to say about this one. So first up for the bit, we have Hexa, a reused part, nothing too crazy here, just Hexa, balance bit. Very much used for like defense though at this point here. Hexagonal shape, 16 gears, extra burst resistance. It's pretty nice. Good choice for a reprint. And then we have the blade, which is of course BulletGriffon, and this thing is kind of insane. So it is a ratchet integrated blade, of course that being the whole thing about UX Expand. So here it is, and yeah, it looks pretty crazy. And it does split, so twists, does that, and now you have two different parts here. So starting off with the actual Griffin piece, it looks like this. Bit goes there. Got the metal, these extra prongs. Apparently they have some durability problems, unfortunately, so hopefully we get a mold too, but for now, definitely unfortunate for such a cool bay, but here we are. But yeah, looks nice. And then we have the bullet piece. I'll get into the rulings a bit later because I have some thoughts on them, but yeah, here's this. Underside, this part, it is spring-loaded, so that's cool, I guess, but yeah, flat piece there. And yeah, there's the bullet piece. Again, very, very interesting. And then putting this back together is very simple. You just kind of line them up and then twists, and there it is. It's back to normal, so very simple process. Before we go any further, I want to go ahead and do the part weights, because this thing should be fairly heavy, actually. So first up here we have Hexa at 2.58 grams. Then the Griffin, part of the blade, at 28.32 grams. Griffin, with its actual, bit, is 30.92 grams, so fairly light as one piece, but again, as a two-part blade, you would expect that. And then the bullet piece, which is just one big part, is 32.71 grams. It's actually not terrible. More comparable to an early Beyblade X base, so fairly light, but not horribly light either. The total weight of the blade, though, is going to be an insane 61.03 grams, and then just adding the bit in there for good measure. 63.6 grams. That is a very, very big bay. Now, putting this together is very simple. The bit just goes in like that. There's nothing else to it. And there is BulletGriffon Hexa. Looks good. Split apart. So here is Griffin itself with Hexa. And yeah, and there's Bullet again. So this is a 2-in-1 bay. Very, very cool. I have a lot of thoughts to say on this thing. So first up, the idea of BulletGriffon itself is of course to be a 2-in-1 bay. However, they did take another type, so this is a balanced type bay. However, the bullet part, as I mentioned, has a flat sort of bottom, so it's meant to be attack, while the bottom Griffin piece is meant to be a defense type. Hexa is a balanced bit, but again, like I said, it is very commonly used for defense, so they definitely get away with using it there. The cool part about Griffin, though, is that you can also change its role. You could give it any bit you want. It could be any type you want. Like, for example, you could put dot, ball, kick, jolt, whatever you want in this thing. I know one popular combo I've seen is with merge, which is cool. Maybe finally use for that really odd, tall part, but honestly great if you get two weird parts together like that and actually make it work. This bay, of course, is meant to be very heavily based on Phantom Fox MS, not in its literal motif design, just in its visual design splitting apart. I know in Metal Fight there was the whole XTS thing with, I think it was like, with a Unicorno drone gimmick or whatever it was, but again, that was more of a spin-off thing. In Burst, we did have Venom Diablos, but Bullet just really didn't cut it. I don't think it was impactful enough. This thing, though, is very much like Phantom Fox, and something else very interesting to know about Phantom Fox is that there were 3 different colors out. You had the original light version, and then the recolors, one being yellow, one being red, and each one of these actually had a different bottom piece, which is very unusual and unique for a recolor to have a whole different kind of piece to it. But I was kind of reminded of that here, how you could swap out bits on the bottom part to make it work differently. Since typically you have one piece that is more defensive and then one piece that is more aggressive. While you always have that one aggressive piece, you could have, you know, a second aggressive piece or one that's maybe a bit more stamina heavy or whatever you want. I think that's very, very cool. Just thought it was a cool note to make that I don't think a lot of people really talk about. One criticism I do have of this bay, though, is the ruling. So how the ruling works is that the Griffin piece here is the only part that matters. So Bullet really doesn't. This is your actual bay once it splits. My problem is that it kind of makes it awkward. I get what they were going for. You have one piece that matters, so the other piece can kind of just do what it wants, but I think it'd be really cool if both pieces matter. You have to beat both pieces to actually beat the bay. I know that brings up some balance concerns and general questions, but I think what they should have done is basically, you have to take out both pieces to win, but if you do beat the bay, you know, this bay loses, both parts are out. I think the priority should go to the part that would reward more points. For example, if, let's just say this part here lost via spin finish, but this piece was knocked out, then I think the opponent should get 2 points for the knockout. I think that would have been a fair way to go about it, because then obviously there is more of a risk to losing since you have 2 parts to worry about, but you also have 2 parts in the stadium to potentially win with. I think it'd be a really cool balance mechanic and would have made this bay even more insane than just, you know, putting everything on one single part here. Maybe that's just me though, but let me know. The only other thing I can really think of to criticize is that we have the Bullet piece and the Griffin piece. It's a Griffin. You could have made a whole like a lion eagle thing, I think, but because of the actual sticker design, I kind of get why they didn't do that, but I just think it'd be like a really cool thing to have. Again, it could just be me. Felt like a slight missed opportunity, but it's not a huge deal. It's just like a motif thing. But this is certainly a really great start to UX Expand. I mean, having a bay that literally splits into, that's certainly a striking way to introduce your new subline. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have expected that. I expected something a bit more tame, but here we are. As far as my ratings on this thing go, physically, I'm gonna give this thing an 8 out of 10. I think it looks really cool. I like the color scheme. I think it just has a cool vibe to it being as large as it is. Nothing outright phenomenal looking, but that doesn't matter. It's still really good. And obviously, for conceptual design, like 10 out of 10. Sure, there's a couple of random criticisms here and there, but it's the most interesting and insane bay we've gotten in Beyblade X, so obviously it is a 10 out of 10. And it's also the strongest 10 out of 10 I've ever given for Beyblade X, for sure. This thing is absolutely insane, so it definitely has me very interested in UX Expand. Fortunately, the other 3 UX Expand bays we've seen so far all seem to be like Hasbro first releases, so the more lackluster gimmicks on those should not be reflective of what's to come. We should be getting other crazy stuff, so I am very curious about that July bay, supposedly a new Valkyrie, and what that could bring. So I'm not always the biggest fan of Beyblade X. However, UX Expand is looking very, very cool so far. This is a great release, not just for Beyblade X, just in general for Beyblade. I really like this one, so very happy with it. I think that's all to say for now. I will be doing an Expand Blade video at some point once Drawn strikes out and I have it, so I'll probably have more thoughts there, but for now I think that's all for the unboxing and just my general first impressions. So anyway, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.